Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. Erev Tov, everybody. Hanukah Sameach. So happy to see you all again here tonight, listening to words of Torah. We took a little break last week. Unfortunately, I have to apologize. I could not make the shiur. It was simply impossible to make it Thursday night. But we are back here celebrating the holiday of Hanukah. We have a table in front of me that is filled with chicken wings, sufganiyot, and a whole bunch of other very healthy foods. And I'm sure you at home listening tonight as well have your table laden with all delicious, yummies, calorie-filled, low cholesterol types of goodies. Welcome. I see a lot of new people today, and that's for good reason. Tonight's shiur is sponsored by Mrs. Michelle Kahn in memory of her dear brother, Michael Kalman Ben Tzvi Mordechai, Zichrono Libracha, who passed away on the 1st of Iyar of this past year. Mrs. Khan has done something that is really, really, truly remarkable. She made it a point to have a shiur dedicated in memory of her brother for every month, and she wanted a specific shiur per Rosh Chodesh. And she went around the entire Jewish community asking the rabbis to give a shiur in memory of her brother. And when she contacted me to sponsor tonight's shiur for Chodesh Tevet, which actually falls out on Shabbat, nevertheless, we're going to do it here on Thursday night. So I gladly accepted, and I'm so thrilled that she gave me the honor to address you tonight. We have people listening from all over the world tonight, you should know. She told me prior to the class that we have Lomdei Torah from South Africa. We have those listening from Eretz Yisrael. Very late in the morning or night for them, whatever it is, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, but they are here listening. And those that could not make it here live, they will hear it over the recording and the playback, as of course we posted all on our Finding Holiness podcast. So again, thank you everybody for joining tonight, whether you are here live, whether you are here listening on the Zoom broadcast, or whether you are listening to it on the Finding Holiness podcast. Bruchim Habaim. Tonight's topic is a spectacular one. I've attempted, like many in the past, to combine the topics of the Parashat HaShavua, Parashat Miketz, and that of Hanukah, which is the holiday that we are celebrating today. And the topic is Binyamin, Hanukah, and the number 5. And Bezrat Hashem, tonight, the words that we are going to say will inspire us to understand a new meaning, a new dimension of what is taking place in this week's parasha, something that I've had a question for many, many years. And in addition, also shed a new light on the holiday that we are celebrating, that of Hanukah. So in honor of the auspiciously approaching Shabbat, Parashat Miketz, Shabbat Hanukah, let us make that connection between Parashat HaShavua and the holiday of Hanukah. After the brothers, the Shevatim, complied with Yosef's demand to bring Binyamin to him, that takes place in this week's parasha, he makes a feast, a large se'udah, there for all the brothers. And our Chachamim tell us that this feast was made in honor of Hanukah. And that beautiful se'udah that took place at that moment was for the sake of the holiday. It's actually alluded to in the pasuk, Vayar Yosef itam et Binyamin. Yosef saw with Binyamin with them. Vayomer la'asher al beto, and he told who he was in charge of his home, Havet anashim abayta, bring the men into the house. Utvoach tevach ve'achen, ki iti yochelu anashim b'tzaorayim. Bring the men into the house, have meat slaughtered, and to prepare, for with me these men will dine. Sorry, just muting the individuals online. Keep yourself muted, please. Thank you so much. So, what is the allusion in the Torah? The Chachamim tell us that the words tevach vehachen, the last letter of tevach is a chet, and vehachen, if you combine the chet with the word vehachen, which is vav hey kaf nun, it spells Hanukah. In other words, the meat that was slaughtered for that feast was in preparation for Hanukah. In fact, the rabbis continue and say, Utvoach tevach, the gematria of those two words is 44, which alludes to the 44 candles that are lit during the 8 days of Hanukkah, 36 candles plus the 8 shamashim, so it's 44 in total. These allusions are brought down in many Sifrei Kodesh. One of the more famous ones that is brought down is that the name of the parasha is Parashat Miketz Shenatayim Yamin. Shenatayim is an acronym for Semol Ner Tadlik Yamin Mezuzah. Semor Ner Tadlik, on the left you should light the candle, Yamin Mezuzah. The right goes the mezuzah. So we see that Miketz Shenatayim Yamin, the Shenatayim is in reference to the holiday of Hanukkah, in addition to the Utvoach Tevach Vehachen, which I alluded to just now. Not only that, it is brought down in many of the Sifrei Kodesh that Yosef HaTzadik's reason for celebrating Hanukkah back in Mitzrayim was based on an unbelievable remez by the Megale Amukot. He writes in Parashat Va'etchanan, that the gematria of Yosef, which is the gematria of Yosef equals that of Antiochus, who was the Greek ruler at the time. Not only that, the gematria of Yosef is the same gematria of Melech Yavan, Greek king of Greece. Now, what does this mean? It alludes to the fact that the Kedusha of Yosef HaTzadik was able to abolish the klipa, the negative influence of that of Yavan, of Greece. The great Zera Kodesh, the Rav of Rovshitz, Zecher Zechutei Agen Alenu, he writes that the klipa, the negative influence of Yavan, is associated with the transgressions that have to do with matters of Kedusha, specifically to that of the Brit, of the Milah. That's one of the reasons why they abolished Brit Milah. One of the things that they abolished was Brit Milah. So who was the individual that had to somehow rectify this, which we're going to go on to explain tonight? That had to be Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik was a paradigm of righteousness. That's why it's called Yosef HaTzadik. And his Kedusha was able to negate the Klipa of Yavan. We know that the area of the Brit Milah, the reproductive organs in the 7 Sfirot, the human body consists of the 7 Sfirot, 3 in the head, then you got the 2, the right and the left, then you have Yesod and Malchut, the notion of Yesod is that of the reproductive organs. Tzaddik Yesod Olam. Yosef was the Tzaddik. Yosef represented that of Yesod. And therefore, since the Greeks wished to annul that Brit, or that mitzvah of the Brit Milah, it had to come as about Yosef to rectify that. This goes on and really snowballs into many, many deep ideas. The part of this meal that takes place, something takes place there that everyone is bothered with. Here is the brothers just come back. They bring Binyamin back. And Yosef seems to show a tremendous love for Binyamin at that moment. He kind of like shoves the brothers along. Okay, you guys sit over here. I want Binyamin next to me. And then he does something unthinkable. What does he do? Vayisa masot me'et panav alehem, Vaterev masat Binyamin mimasot kulam 5 yadot. He had portions of food been set to be served to the brothers, but Binyamin's portion was 5 times greater than the size of the other portions. That's what the Torah tells us. And everybody just understands, like, what's he doing? He knows what it feels to be the brother that was hated, where others felt jealous of him. What is he doing now, giving Binyamin, his actual brother by blood, same mother, 5 times the portion? This is where the number 5 comes in, over the brothers. The brothers are looking at this. What was Yosef's intent by doing so? So, say the Sifrei Kedoshim, unbelievable. He said, these 5 yadot, these 5 times greater, the portion 5 times greater, 5 yadot, 5 hands. 5 hands. That's what the Torah, the Lashon the Torah uses is 5 hands. What is 5 hands? So look what he says. The 5 hands are associated with the military victory of the Hashmonaim. What do we say in Al Hanisim? We also mention 5 hands. We mentioned 5 hands in the Al Hanisim. Masarta giborim beyad halashim. We tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you delivered the mighty in the hands of the weak. That was number 1. Verabim beyad me'atim. And the many in the hands of the few. That's number 2. Utmeim beyad tehorim. The impure in the hands of the pure. That's number 3. Reshaim beyad sadikim. The wicked in the hand of the righteous. That's number 4. And last, Vezedim beyad oske toratecha. The willful sinners in the hands of those who are occupied with the study of Torah. So we see in the own Al Nisim prayer that we say during our Amidah and Birkat HaMazon, we see the mention of the word Beyad 5 times, corresponding to the 5 Yadot in this pasuk that we're going to read in this week's parasha. We can demonstrate the connection between Binyamin and the miracle of Hanukah even further. The Gemara in Masechet Yoma Daf Yud Bet Amud Aleph says the following. Tanya was taught in a Braita. Ma haya bechelko shel Yehuda. What was found in the portion of Yehuda? It's in reference to the Bet HaMikdash. The Bet HaMikdash, in fact, where it sat, was sitting in 2 different territories of the Shevatim. Part of it was in Shevet Yehuda, part of it was in Shevet Binyamin. So the Gemara asked, what was in Shevet Yehuda? In Yehuda there was Harabait, Halishkot ve'azarot, the Temple Mount, the chambers, the courtyards. That was in Shevet Yehuda. Umaya bechelko shel Binyamin. The Gemara asked, what was in Binyamin's part? Ulam, that was the antechamber. Hechal, that's the Hechal where the menorah stood. Ubet Kodesh HaKodashim, and the chamber of the Kodesh HaKodashim. That was in the part of Binyamin. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat, Daf Kaf Aleph, which speaks about the whole story of Hanukah, mentions famously, Keshenichnesu Yevanim lahechal, when the Yevanim went to the Hechal, Timeu kol hashemanim sheba Hechal. They made and they desecrated all the oils that were in the sanctuary. It turns out that they desecrated and contaminated all of the oils in the Hechal, which was in whose territory? The territory of Binyamin. Subsequently then, when the Hashmonim miraculously defeated the Greeks in the war, they restored the Hechal to the previous state of Tahara, also like we say in Al Hanisim. Ve'achar kach ba'u banecha lidvir betecha. Your children entered the inner sanctum. Ufinu et hechalecha. They cleaned out the Hechal. They cleaned out the sanctuary. V'tiharu et mikdashecha. They purified the mikdash. V'idliku nero bechatzrot kodshecha. So now we can comprehend why HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated that the miracle of Hanukah to occur as well in the month of Kislev. The Arizal famously writes that the 12 months of the year align with each of the 12 Shevatim and their encampments. The month of Kislev, the 9th month, which is the start of the holiday of Hanukah, aligns with none other than the tribe of Binyamin. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu performed the miracle of the oil in the Hechal, in the territory of Binyamin, during the month corresponding to Binyamin. So now we can better understand what exactly was the intent of Yosef HaTzadik at that historic Hanukah feast back in Egypt that he organized for his brothers in Mitzrayim. He gave Binyamin Hamesh Yadot. He gave him 5 hands, 5 times the portions, corresponding to the 5 hands that are associated with the victory of the Hashmonaim, because he wanted to perform what we call Po'el Dimyon. A Po'el Dimyon is a symbolic gesture for the future miracle of Hanukkah. Thousands of years later, the Hashmonaim were going to fight the Greeks, and the Greeks were going to come and contaminate oil in the Hechal, in the area of Binyamin, where it's located in his territory, and in the merit of the Hashmonaim entering the Hechal to purify it after their victory on the battlefield. This is why Yosef is doing this at this moment. Unbelievable. We can continue and say the following. What motivated Yosef to do so? Yes, we have a connection with Hanukkah, as we mentioned, but there may be an even bigger connection, that of Yosef, Binyamin, and Hanukkah. The fact that Yosef arranged this feast in Mitzrayim on what was to be Hanukkah and gave Binyamin a 5-fold portion corresponding to the 5 hands indicates that they are indeed connected to the holiday. The Bnei Yisachar, who we've quoted many times in this shiur on Thursday night, asserts the following, that the first Bet HaMikdash corresponds to Leah. The second Bet HaMikdash corresponds to Rachel. Now, you're probably wondering, what does this mean? Well, every morning, what we should be doing when we get up, rather than running and grabbing our coffee, running to work or running to Bet Knesset, we should be saying Tikkun Chatzot. Tikkun Chatzot is when we wake up and we cry for the Bet HaMikdash. Part of Tikkun Chatzot, there's what's called Tikkun Leah, and there's what's called Tikkun Rachel. Why is there a Tikkun Leah and a Tikkun Rachel? Because we're crying for 2 Batei Mikdash. We're crying for both Bet HaMikdash. One of them, the first one is Leah, the second one is Rachel. And the allusion to this is found in the Pasuk in Megillat Ruth. Yiten Adonai et haisha haba'a el betecha kerachel uchleah. May Hashem make the woman who is entering your house like Rachel and Leah, asher banu shetehem et bet Yisrael, who both built up the house of Israel. So that's the allusion. Rachel and Leah built the house of Israel, which is the Bet HaMikdash. The miracle of Hanukkah took place in which Bet HaMikdash? Second Bet HaMikdash. Took place in the second Bet HaMikdash, which corresponds to Rachel. Therefore, the firstborn of Rachel, who was Yosef, accepted upon himself the responsibility of preparing the meal for that miracle, the Chamesh Yadot. He prepared a Hanukkah feast in Mitzrayim for his brothers and gave Binyamin, Rachel's second son, a 5 times portion, 5-fold portion. So he performed that Po'el Dimyon, he performed that symbolic gesture for the 5-fold miracle of the Hashmonaim, which we just quoted in the Ala Nisim, which enabled them to light the menorah with pure oil in the second Bet HaMikdash corresponding to Rachel. Further understanding Yosef HaTzadik's intent, the Gemara in Masechet Yoma also says, Elu chamisha devarim. These are the 5 things. Shehayu ben Mikdash Rishon le Mikdash Sheni. These were the 5 things that were different in the first Bet HaMikdash and the second Bet HaMikdash. Aron, Kaporet Uchruvim, the Aron, the Kaporet and Kruvim, Esh, Shechina, Ruach HaKodesh, and the Urim Utumim, which is one. Now, these 5 things were not the same in the second Bet HaMikdash. Meaning the first Bet HaMikdash had the original of these. They still had the Aron, but it was not the same Aron. So therefore, Yosef HaTzadik, he feared something. He feared the worst. He feared that due to the absence of these 5 holy, not all physical objects, right? You had the Esh and the Shekhinah, but since they were missing, he feared that the Greeks would be able to succeed, God forbid, in capturing the second Bet HaMikdash in the territory of Binyamin. So therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu prepared the remedy before the malady. And Yosef gave Binyamin a five-fold portion. And the Poel Dimyon here, that gesture was designed to enable the Hashmonaim to make up with their own Kedusha for the 5 items that were missing in the second Bet HaMikdash. Where did Yosef have this ability, this knowledge, to give Binyamin this 5-fold portion that would make up for the 5 items missing in the Bet HaMikdash? The Gemara Masechet Sotah, Daf Yud Amud Bet says, Yosef shekidesh shem shamayim baseter zacha vehosifu lo ot achat mishemo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yosef HaTzadik, who sanctified the name of heaven, baseter, privately, he merited that they added 1 letter of the name of God to his name. Dichtiv ayadut bihosef samo. This is a part of the Mizmor that we say on Thursday. It's also the Mizmor of Rosh Hashanah. Edut bihosef samo. Yehosef. The hey is added. And therefore, why was it added? Because he sanctified HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name by not going and laying with the wife of Potiphar. As a side point, the Ben Ish Chai asks a question, why was Yehuda, who also sanctified God's name, by not embarrassing Tamar, why was he not given an extra? Why he was born with the letter? Yehuda was born with almost a complete name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He has a complete name of Hashem, just given the Dalet. Why was he not added something else? Or maybe added to a later time? And the Ben Ish Chai explains that the reason is, there's a much bigger power when you're doing something baseter, when you're doing when nobody's looking. To sanctify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name when nobody's looking is a much higher level than when you're doing it in public. When you're in public, that's what Yehuda did, because she saw, everyone's watching, she's going to get killed. I'll admit, it was me, tzadka mimeni, last week's parasha. Also good, but not on the level of Yosef. And so Yosef was added later on. So what can we say now? It was actually heavenly ordained that the letter Hey, which possesses the numerical number of 5, the numerical value of 5, be added to Yosef's name. And that was going to endow him with the power to use that Kedusha to compensate for the 5 items that were lacking in the second Bet HaMikdash. And therefore, in his merit, came the Hashmonaim. They defeated the Greeks, as alluded to by the name Yosef. Yosef, which we said possesses the same gematria as Melech Yavan, the king of Greece, and Antiochus. And therefore, Yosef knew that he possessed the wherewithal to give Binyamin 5 yadot, a 5-fold portion, representing that symbolic gesture that would enable the Hashmonaim to compensate for those 5 missing items, and thereby enabling them to defeat the Greeks with 5 hands. Let's recap what we just said. We've asserted the idea that Yosef gave Binyamin 5-fold portion at that meal. That meal took place on Hanukah, as was alluded to earlier. And the reason why he did so, why did he give him a 5-fold meal? Because it corresponds to the 5 hands that the Hashmonaim used in their victory over the Greeks. We have the mighty in the hands of the weak. We have the many in the hands of the few. We have the impure in the hands of the pure. We have the wicked in the hands of the righteousness, and the willful sinners in the hands of those who are occupied with the study of the Torah. There's an unbelievable Midrash Tanchuma. The Midrash teaches us that Binyamin merited to have the Bet HaMikdash built in his territory for 5 reasons. Not a coincidence. For 5 reasons. Prior to passing away, Moshe Rabbeinu, the end of Parashat Zot HaBeracha, his beracha to Shevet Binyamin was, LeBinyamin Amar, Yedid Adonai Yishkon Labetach Alav, Chofef Alav Kol Hayom, Uben Ketefav Shachen. It became a very famous song by Avram Fried, the great singer. What was the beracha that was given to Binyamin? May Hashem's beloved dwell securely beside him. He hovers protectively over him all day long. Uben ketefav shachen means, and he dwells between his shoulders. Rashi here on this pasuk explains that Moshe Rabbeinu in this beracha was prophesizing that the Bet HaMikdash was destined to be built in the territory of Binyamin. Why was he zocheh to such? The Midrash Tanchuma, like I said, gives 5 reasons. The reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shekhinah dwelled in Binyamin's territory, as it says, Uben ketefav shachen, he dwells between his shoulders. The first reason is because Binyamin was rewarded midah keneged midah, measure for measure, for having been struck and given blows by his brothers undeservedly on his back, on his shoulders. When did this happen? When they discovered in this week's parasha that the goblet was stashed away in his sack. They accused him of being a thief. They accused him of worse things. In fact, I want to read for you the pasuk and Rashi here. The pasuk says, "Vaikreu simlotam vayamos ish al hamoro vayashuvu ha'ira." They tore their garments when they saw the goblet in Binyamin's sack. They tore their garments. Each of them loaded their donkeys, and they returned to the city. And the Midrash deduces from here that the brothers must have been extremely powerful men because they were able to load their donkeys by themselves. Rashi says they were strong men, they didn't need to help each other. They were on their own, totally fine. Which gives us just a small glimpse of how painful it was when Binyamin got struck. Rashi tells us what happens. No one needed to help his brother. They were all good, lifting up lading the camels with whatever furniture they had or anything they were bringing. They were smacking Binyamin in the back. Insulting him. Ganva bera de ganvata biashtanu. Thief, the son of a thief, you've ashamed us. Ben imecha ata, you are the son of your mother. Kach biesha imecha et avinu, so your mother ashamed our father. In reference to Rachel stealing the terafim, Rachel went and stole the idols from Laban, right when they left the house, and as a result, they were accused. A lot of bad things were happening to them. Right? That's why Yaakov had to say, you have to get rid of all the idols. He goes, you're a thief. Your mom was a thief. You're a thief. Look what happened. And they're smacking him on the back. Everyone giving him blows. Ubishvil otan hamakot shehiku biktefav. And because of those big stirot he got in the back, zacha shetishre shechina ben ketefav. Rashi says, he was zocheh, Binyamin was zocheh to have God's presence, the Shekhinah, dwell where? In between his shoulders. Shneimar chofef alav kol hayom uben ketefav shachen. Now what do you do if you're Binyamin? You are getting hammered by your brothers, physically, emotionally, insults being thrown at you. You didn't even do it. Rachel, she took it. She took the items. Binyamin didn't even do it. He opened the bag. He saw it over there. What's going through his mind? How does he respond? He doesn't respond. He stays quiet, face down, embarrassed. Our rabbis want to tell us that when a person does this, it brings him tremendous beracha. The Gemara Masechet Yoma says, "Hane'elavin ve'enan olvin," those who suffer insult but don't insult back. Shom'in cherpatan ve'enan meshivin. They hear their disgrace, but they do not reply. Osin me'ahava usmechin biyisurin, who perform God's will out of love and are happy in suffering. Ale'en hakatuv omer ve'ohavav ketzet hashemesh bigvurato. Regarding them, the pasuk tells us, but they who love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, him shall be as sun going forth in its might. In merit of that indignity, of those insults, and the suffering that Binyamin accepted lovingly, he didn't do anything in response, out of the hands of his brothers. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's referred to as the son of the world in this pasuk, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is now acting as a shield for Binyamin. And hence the Shekhinah comes down in the form of the Bet HaMikdash in his territory. That's the first reason why Binyamin was zocheh to the Bet HaMikdash. The second reason why Binyamin was zocheh to the Bet HaMikdash in his territory. Again, on the word Uben Ketefav Shachen, the Midrash writes, Mipnei ma zacha Binyamin shetishre Shekhinah bechelko. Why was Binyamin zocheh to have the Bet HaMikdash in his territory? Mashal lemelech sheba etzel banav liprakim. We can compare this to a king who goes to visit his sons periodically. Kol echad ve'echad amar etzli hu shore. Every one of the sons says, Dad, you're staying by me, staying by me, staying by me. Everyone's hosting Dad. Katan shebekulam amar, the smallest one, the youngest one, he says, Efshar shemaniach abba achyai hagdolim v'shorei mi. He's down and depressed. My father, he's going to leave all my older brothers, he's going to come stay with me. He's not even going to pay attention to me. Halach ve'amad upanav kevushot v'nafsho aguma. So the young boy went down, upset, crying. He missed his father. He wants to spend time with his father. Ra'a oto aviv she'amad upanav kevushot v'nafsho aguma alav. The father looks up and he sees his young son there, upset, crying. They can't spend time with the father. Amar, he said, Achshav ma'achal u'mishteh yeh mishelachem v'lignati etzlo. What does the father say? The food and the drink is going to come from the rest of you, the older ones. Where am I going to sleep? I'm going to sleep by the younger son. Kach amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the Midrash, Bet HaBechira yeh bechelko shel Binyamin. The Bet HaMikdash is in Binyamin's part. That's where I'm going to sleep. That's where I'm going to dwell. The korbanot, the food, mikol hashevatim. That's going to come from all of you. You guys are going to bring the korbanot to this house. Because this is where I'm going to sleep. So we see that Binyamin merited having the Bet HaMikdash in his territory because as the youngest son, he considered himself unworthy of having HaKadosh Baruch Hu rest his Shekhinah in his territory. The purpose of the Bet HaMikdash was to serve as a dwelling place for the Shekhinah. Ve'asu li mikdash ve'shachanti betocham. HaKadosh Baruch Hu only rests his presence on those who possess the trait of anava, of humility. We see this many, many places throughout Tanakh. It's also emphasized in the Gemara, Masechet Sotah, Amar Rabbi Yosef, Le'olam yilmad adam midat kono. We should follow the example of our Creator, namely to adore the humble people. That God ignored all the other mighty mountains, all the Mount Everests, all the Kilimanjaros, all the other huge mountains for the sake of Har Sinai, a lowly mountain. Because with regards to those who are arrogant and those who are haughty, the Gemara teaches, Kol Adam shesh bo gasut haruach, any person that possesses a haughtiness of spirit. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know what God says? En ani vahu yecholin ladur ba'olam. Me and him, we can't be living at this. We can't. It doesn't work. Can't get along. We can't be in the same world at the same time. So Binyamin merited to have the Bet HaMikdash, the second reason, because he was humble. He possessed a lowly demeanor. He was the youngest brother. He considered himself to be unworthy. So just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose to give the Torah on Har Sinai, the lowliest of mountains, so too he chose to have his Shekhinah dwell in the territory of the lowliest of the Shevatim, Binyamin. Reason number 2. Third reason. Davar acher, says the Midrash, Sifri. Why did Binyamin merit to have the Shekhinah in his territory? Because all the other sons were born outside of Israel. Binyamin nolad be'eretz Israel. Binyamin was born in Israel. It's unbelievable. Why is this so important? There is this innate kedusha to Israel that you just can't feel. You can't see it, but it's there. Everything is elevated to first class kedusha when the moment you step into the land. The Mishnah in Masechet Mikvaot writes, Eretz Yisrael tehora, Israel is pure, umikvaotea tehorim, and the mikvaot, the mikvehs, are pure. All the other lands, Canada, United States, England, Belgium, Brazil, Argentina, wherever, Morocco, whatever it is, Gazru Tuma al Eretz Ha'amim. That they decreed a state of Tuma on all the other lands. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean that Israel is pure and the mikvaot are pure of Israel? The Megaleh Amukot here has something unbelievable. What an amazing allusion. He says, the air outside of Israel, the air here in Canada, causes impurity. Here in Canada, we just say the air causes us to be cold. Okay? But there's actually impurities in the air, anywhere outside of Eretz Yisrael. And the reason is because it is the domain of the negative influences of the klipot. In Eretz Yisrael, the klipot have no control. And all of the iniquities, all of the sins, they get left behind. Once you go to Eretz Yisrael, you're ascending to a level that is beyond comprehension. Now, look at this unbelievable insight by the Megaleh Amukot. He says that Eretz Yisrael constitutes a mikveh in of itself, which purifies the Jewish people. How is it so? Listen to this. Eretz Yisrael measures a distance of 400 parsa by 400 parsa. That's the dimensions that the Gemara tells us. 400 parsa by 400 parsa. How big is a parsa? Well, elsewhere in Masechet Pesachim it says that the distance that an average man can walk in a day is 10 parsaot. Which means that Eretz Yisrael is a 40-day walk, 40 times 10, both lengthwise and crosswise. A day is comprised of 24 hours. So hence, there are 960 hours in 40 days, which is the precise measure of a mikveh. A mikveh is 40 se'ah of water, which equals 960 lugim. I don't know the exact number, what that means in liters, but 960 lugim. So Eretz Yisrael, which is a 40-day walk, constitutes a mikveh in and of itself, capable of purifying anybody who enters it. Not only that, David HaMelech tells us in Tehillim that we can explain the significance of this pasuk. Vayiten lahem artzot goyim ve'ama leumim yirashu. God gave them the lands of the goyim and they inherited that which the nations had acquired by labor. Ba'avur yishmeru chukav ubrito yinsoru. In order so that they might observe his statutes and his teachings. Am Yisrael inherited Eretz Yisrael from the 7 nations. A land that its length and its width was a 40-day walk, similar to the measure of a mikveh, in the merit of accepting the Torah. The Torah, which was given on Har Sinai, also over the course of 40 days, 960 hours, similar to the measure of a mikveh. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us Eretz Yisrael, which is a 40-day walk, like a mikveh, so that they would study Torah in the state of Tahara. And therefore, this is the meaning of that Mishnah. Eretz Yisrael tehora umikveotea tehorim. Israel, the land of Israel is pure, and the mikvaot are pure. He's teaching us that the reason why Eretz Yisrael is pure, you want to know why it's pure? You know why it's a first-class level of purity of tehora? Is because of the mikvaot. The length and the width are 40-day walks, 960 hours. Like the measure of a mikveh. She constitutes a mikveh. You don't even realize every time you go visit Israel, it's like you're dipping in a mikveh. Your whole body's engulfed constantly everywhere you go. Unbelievable chidush by the Megaleh Amukot. So why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu choose to rest his Bet HaMikdash in the territory of Binyamin? Because he was born in Eretz Yisrael. But Gemara Masechet Nida says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tahor, God is pure, umsharetav teorim, and those who serve Him are pure. So therefore, it's proper and fitting for God to rest His Shekhinah in the territory of Binyamin, who was born in Eretz Israel, which is totally pure, and not in the lands of other nations, and not in the territory of his brothers that were born in other nations, where there was, like we said, a state of Tumah which was decreed. Reason number 3. Fourth reason why the Bet HaMikdash was built in Binyamin's territory. Dabar acher, mipnei ma zacha Binyamin shetishre shechina bechelko. Kol hashevatim hayu b'mchirato shel Yosef, uBinyamin lo haya b'mchirato shel Yosef. All the other brothers were involved in the sale of Yosef, but not Binyamin. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said, Ani omer la'elu sheivnu bet ha'bechira. I'm going to tell these brothers to build my Bet HaMikdash? Lo, absolutely not. Ksheyu mitpalelim lefanai, eni mevakesh alehem rachamim, eni mesharesh shechinate bichelkam, shelo hayu rachmanim al alehem. Won't I want to show them mercy when I pray before me? But instead, I'm not going to have my Shekhinah amongst them because they didn't show their own brother mercy. So that's what the Gemara says. The second Bet HaMikdash was destroyed as a result of what? Sinat Hinam. The first Bet HaMikdash was destroyed because of the 3 cardinal sins. Because of Avodah Zarah, because of Gilui Arayot, and Shvichut Damim. Idol worship, immorality, and murder. But the second, the Bet HaMikdash, where the Jews were not committing this, why was it destroyed? It was destroyed because of Sinat Chinam, to teach us that Sinat Chinam is equal to the 3 cardinal sins. Unbelievable here, the Chachamim tell us. These sins were not prevalent in the first Bet HaMikdash. They were only prevalent in the first Bet HaMikdash. They were not prevalent in the second Bet HaMikdash. What destroyed the second Bet HaMikdash was baseless hatred. So Sinat Chinam is equivalent to 3 cardinal sins. So the reason why the second Bet HaMikdash is destroyed is explicit, Sinat Chinam. God chose to have the second Bet HaMikdash because there was no Sinat Chinam. And therefore He chose to have it erected in the territory of Binyamin because He wasn't involved in the sale of Yosef, because there was no Sinat Chinam on the part of Binyamin. I love my brother with all my heart. I'm not going to sell him to the Egyptians. Perfect. In your land, that's where I'm going to go to put the second Bet HaMikdash. Because there was no Sinat Chinam. You're the perfect candidate. But when Sinat Chinam became prevalent at the time of the second Bet HaMikdash, God destroyed it. No longer can I keep it here. And that's the fourth reason why Binyamin was Zocheh. The fifth and final reason, which is listed in the Midrash, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rested His Shekhinah in the territory of Binyamin, uben ketefav shachen, because he merited having his father lean on his shoulders. What does this mean? Midrash says the following: Mashal lemelech, again a parable of a king, shayu lo banim harbe, again had many children. V'sheigdilu, when they got older, halach kol echad ve'echad v'tafas mekomo. Each one of his children went to go live somewhere else. Yeah, one guy in Barrie, one guy in Oshawa, one guy in Toronto, one guy in Montreal, everyone going everywhere. Katan shebekulam haya aviv ohavo. But the smallest son, the youngest one, was loved by his father. Ochel imo v'shotei imo, he would eat with him, drink with him. Nish'an alav v'yotzeh, he would lean on him and go out. Nish'an alav v'nichnas, lean on him and come in. Kach Binyamin atzadik katan shebashvatim haya. Binyamin was the smallest. Ve'haya Yaakov Avinu ochel imo v'shotei imo. They would have meals together and drinks together. Nish'an alav v'nichnas, he would lean on him and enter. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said, Makom shesamach tzadik ze yadav, the place that this tzaddik placed his hands. Sham ani mashre shechinati. This is where I will rest my shechinah. That's the meaning of uben ketefav shachen, between the shoulders. HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded that the Bet HaMikdash be built in his territory, in Binyamin's territory, because he wanted himself to dwell with the Torah and the Aron. God didn't want to depart from it. The Midrash also, Shemot Rabbah, says another mashal of a king, Shaya lo bat yachida. He had one daughter. Ba echad min hamelachim untala. Came another prince, another king, and married her. And got married off your daughter. Bikesh lelech lo uratzo v'ritol leishto. So he wanted to take the king's daughter. I'm going to take her to where my kingdom is, where I live. Amar lo melech, the king said to the son-in-law, Biti shenatati lecha yechiditi. This daughter that I gave to you, it's my only daughter. Lifros mimena eni yachol. To separate from her, I can't. She's my only daughter. Lomar lecha al title eni yachol lefi sheishtecha. To tell you, sorry, you can't take her, that's also not right because you married her. Ela zutova aseli. The king asked the son-in-law for one favor, please. Shekol makom she'ata holech, kiton echad asali shadur etzlechem. Wherever you go, have a place for me to sleep. Have a place for me to come visit and rest there. She'eni yachol le'aniach et beti, because I can't leave my daughter. What's a nimshal? Kach amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu le'Yisrael. This is what God said to Israel. Natati lachem et haTorah. I gave you the Torah. That was my daughter, God said. Lifrosh hemena eni yachol. To just leave the Torah and give it completely to you and for me forget about it, I can't. Lomar lachem al titlua eni yachol. To tell you not to take the Torah, I also can't. Ela bekol makom she'atem holchim. So therefore I ask you one favor. Wherever you go, Bait echad asu li shadur betocho. Make me a home. Shneimar ve'asu li mikdash. And that's why we have Batei Knesset, Batei Midrash, Bet HaMikdash. That was God's place to sleep and be with his daughter, so that he doesn't depart from her forever. What does the Mishnah Perkei Avot say? Al shelosha devarim ha'olam omed. The world stands on three things: Ala Torah, Val Avodah, Gemilut Chasadim. On the Torah, the sacrificial service, and acts and practice of kindness and kind deeds. The Zohar HaKadosh tells us that the three avot are the three pillars. The Torah is Yaakov. The Avodah, the sacrificial service, is Yitzchak. And Abraham, is well known, is Gemilut Chasadim. So what do we see? Yaakov Avinu is actually the pillar of Torah Kedosha. He's the pillar of Torah. Titen emet Yaakov, emet zu Torah. So the Gemara Masechet Berachot says, and then Rabbi Yochanan says, and then Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Gedola shimusha shel Torah yoter milimuda. That a person who attends to those who study Torah is greater than the one who actually studying the Torah. Again, let me repeat that. Gedola shimusha shel Torah. Attending, being a shamash to the guy who's learning and studying is greater than actually studying. What's the proof? The proof comes from Eliyahu Navi and his disciple Elisha. Elisha took over as the main Navi after Eliyahu went to Shamayim. The pasuk says, Po Elisha ben Shaphat. Here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, Asher yatzak mayim al yedei Eliyahu, who poured water on the hands of Eliyahu. The Gemara says, Lamad lo ne'emar. It didn't say that he learned from Eliyahu. It would make more sense. How did Elisha gain all his knowledge? He learned from Eliyahu Navi, who was his rabbi. Say that he learned. Here's the new Navi, everybody. Who is he? Oh, he learned from Eliyahu Navi. Chazak Baruch. Now we know he's good. That's what normal people would say. He's a student. No. Who's this guy? Elisha. Who is he? He poured water on Eliyahu Navi's hands. Huh? That's all he did? Yes, that's all he did. No, he also learned. Don't worry. But that in itself, Gedolah shimusha shel Torah yoter milimuda. The fact that the Navi tells us all he did was pour the water on Eliyahu Navi's hands, that's why he was zocheh to be the next guy. And therefore, the Beit HaMikdash, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu secludes himself with the Torah, his one and only daughter, was built in the territory of Binyamin, between his shoulders, because he attended Yaakov. He was the last son, staying with Yaakov, while all the brothers got married and moved on. Binyamin was there with him, giving him to eat, giving him to drink. When Yaakov was tired, he put his head on his shoulders. He was attending to Yaakov, the pillar of Torah. And therefore, my Beit HaMikdash is going to go over here. Unbelievable. 5 reasons why Binyamin got the Beit HaMikdash. Rabotai, here's the punchline. It's a big punchline. Chachamim, all these 5 reasons. Everything that we've said here, a 5. There's been a lot of 5 tonight. There's been a lot of 5. Yosef gave Binyamin a portion, 5 yadot, 5 hands. And we said that those 5 hands were in preparation for the victory of the Hashmonaim, the miraculous victory over the Greeks, which is described in 5 hands. The mighty in the hands of the weak, the many in the hands of the few, the impure in the hands of the pure, the wicked in the hands of the righteous, and the willful sinners in the hands of those who are occupied with study of Torah. The 5 hands in the Al Nisim prayer correspond to the 5 reasons why Binyamin merited having the Bet HaMikdash built in his territory. Let's start. Masarta giborim beyad halashim. You delivered the mighty in the hands of the weak. Corresponds to the first reason. Binyamin's mighty brothers weakened Binyamin. They gave him stirot, blows to the shoulder, when they suspected him of stealing Yosef's goblet. And in that merit, the weaker Hashmonaim defeated the mightier Greeks. Number 2, Verabim beyad me'atim. The many in the hands of the few. That's a second reason. As the youngest child, Binyamin humbled himself. He held himself in low esteem in relation to the rest of his older brothers. And this justifies the portrayal of Am Yisrael as the few. The Gemara Masechet Chulin tells us, the pasuk, Ki atem ham'at mikol ha'amim. You, Am Yisrael, I desire you because you humble yourselves before me. The importance of humility. Hence number 2, Rabim beyad me'atim. The many in the hands of the few. The third, beyad utmeim beyad teorim. The impure in the hands of the pure. That's the third reason. The Bet HaMikdash was built in the territory of Binyamin because Binyamin was born in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is a land full of purity. It's a mikveh in itself. It's pure and its mikvaot are pure. So in that merit, the pure Hashmonaim defeated the impure Greeks. The fourth beyad, Reshaim beyad tzadikim. The wicked in the hands of the righteous corresponds to the fourth reason. The Bet HaMikdash was built in the territory of Binyamin because he was not a participant in the sale of Yosef HaTzadik. Why is he called Yosef HaTzadik? The term Tzadik here is in reference to Yosef, who is called Tzadik Yesod Olam. We mentioned that at the beginning of the shiur. He was the epitome of the foundation of righteousness. And therefore, in his merit, the righteous Hashmonaim were able to defeat the wicked Greeks. And the last beyad was Zedim beyad oske Toratecha. The willful sinners in the hands of those who are occupied by your Torah corresponds to the fifth reason. In the merit of Yaakov Avinu, the pillar of Torah leaning on Binyamin's shoulders. The Bet HaMikdash was built in his territory. The Bet HaMikdash was built among Shevet Binyamin. Gedolah shimusha yoter milimudah. That attending to those who study Torah is greater than study Torah with them. And therefore, in that merit, the Hashmonaim who studied Torah defeated the Greeks who were willful sinners and heretics. So we learned a valuable lesson here. It's imperative that we follow the footsteps of Binyamin HaTzadik in the merit of these 5 admirable attributes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu rested his holy Shekhinah in his territory. And also in that merit, the Hashmonaim defeated the Greeks in the Hanukah Miracle with 5 hands. And in that merit, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu one day also rest his Shekhinah among us when the third and final Bet HaMikdash will be built. B'mera b'yameinu, amen. Wishing everybody a wonderful night. Be well.